Hi guys, and welcome to the educational video for Hughes Center. We're going to go over the first couple of sessions and give you some breakdown and an assignment at the end if you're required to watch this by your counselor. So I'll get right into it. In the first couple of sessions, what we really talk about is how addiction is a process and so is recovery. And it doesn't really seem like a process a lot of times when we're going through it. It it just kind of happens. And so one of the things that I want to explain is how it's a process for many of us. For most of us, we talk about recovery being an inside job, being mental and emotional. So what we have to learn is, why is it an inside job? Well, it's mental and emotional. So I have a difficult time dealing with the thoughts that I have and the emotions that respond from that, or the emotions that I have and the thoughts that respond from that come from that. So what I have to do is I have to learn how to cope with the thoughts and emotions that I have on a daily basis. Well, most of us started drinking and using when we were teenagers, and usually it was because of some sort of peer pressure, right? Well, I talk to people all the time, and one of the things that I talk to my kids and other kids about is being okay with just being okay, like being secure with who you are. So that when that moment comes, for example, say that peer pressure occurs, usually what happens is I want to be part of the crowd. And so I feel insecure. So we have to learn how to build security within ourselves, within our children, those sort of things. And one of the things that we do in doing so is that we have to identify where our child is, right? So I'm going to go over a few things, right? So we have to identify where our child is in their development. And at any point in their development, wherever that is, however that is, we have to learn to build confidence. So if it's something that they're doing to achieve beyond what seems to be their developmental age, we need to harness that, secure that, and help them prosper in that way. Okay, so it's a process for us, because most of us, like I said, we started off with, say, peer pressure or something like that, and we just did it once. Then we would do it on the weekends. Then we would do it every weekend. Then we would do it during the weekday some, maybe Thursday night, maybe it would flow into Monday some, or we'd pick a weekday out and just it would happen then. And then all of a sudden it was all week. Then it was every day, all day. And it didn't start off as every day, all day, right? And along with that, what happens is that our behaviors change, the thoughts that we have surrounding it change, and our motives change. So when I first started doing it, it was just to feel better about who I was to fit in, right? And then eventually it's like that's the driving force behind, ultimately, in the end, is that I have to get up every day, and one of the first things that hits my mind is, how am I going to put in today? Well, that wasn't the original thought. It's progressive in nature. So when that occurs, you don't know how to handle that. So they told me that alcohol and drugs was never my problem, right? That it was the solution to my problem. Well, what does that mean? What that means is that alcohol and drugs help me soothe my mental and emotional state. So the problem is I don't know how to cope or deal with the mental and emotional state. So the alcohol and drugs is not really the problem. The problem, and what stems from that, is things like trauma, inadequacy, feelings of fear, shame, guilt, anger. These are the things that are the real problems. So we talk about gateway drugs. I really talk about gateway emotions. Okay, so these things surrounding the trauma, the guilt, the shame, the anger, the frustration, whatever it may be, that is the reason we get high. Right? That is the reason we drink. Okay, so one of the things that you have to identify is that when you get into recovery, you have to identify what is recovery for you. So recovery is as unique as each and every person in recovery, but you have to identify what is your program of recovery. So one of the things that I want you to do, if you're required to do this, is I want you to write down 5 aspects of what is your personal program of recovery. And I'm going to be real blunt. If you can't do that, then you don't have an identified program of recovery that is yours. Okay, it's got to be something that this is what I do, 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 this is what I do. If you don't do that, then you don't have one. It's important that you do. Okay, it's all about the little steps also that could lead us back. Okay, another thing that I want you to think about is, what are the things that could lead me back? So one of the things I want you to look at is what are the high risk situations that you could go around where you're like, what is a high risk situation? Okay, well, who are the people that you go around that you used to get high or drunk with? Do you need to be going around them anymore? No, you don't. Okay, I'll answer it for you. You don't. So identify who those people are. If you're going around those people, that's a high risk situation. Okay, I also want you to identify the emotions surrounding that, like what that use. So what emotion cause you to go out and use or drink, right? Sometimes it's a fear of failure, sometimes it's a fear of success, sometimes it's isolation. All right, these are warning signs. Going around old friends, what they're going to be as unique to you as everyone else, right? But we're probably going to share an overwhelming majority of these things. So one of the things I want you to write out are some of the warning signs, okay? So identify some warning signs. So if you're doing this for your counselor, write out 5 warning signs, okay? I want you to do that, and I want you to process that with your counselor, okay? So one of the other things that I want you to think about is how recovery in itself is a process, okay? So one of the big mistakes and one of the big things that we fail to do many times is that when we go to treatment or we go to counseling, when we're done, we think, well, we're done, okay? Well, that's just the beginning, right? They told me that treatment and counseling was discovery, and putting into action, that was recovery. So you got to understand and put into place the actions that you need on a daily basis that help you remain sober, okay? So the initial definition of sober, if you go back to its Hebrew and Aramaic translation, was balanced mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It had nothing to do with chemical, okay? So when I talk about sober, that's the kind of sober I'm talking about, because for someone like me in long-term recovery, if I put in any kind of chemical that changes the way I feel, then I can't be balanced mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. So I want you to think about what sober is, right? Balanced mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, okay? So one of the things that they say also is that anger is the number one, resentment is the number one offender. It kills more alcoholics and addicts than anything else, okay? So we have to understand what anger is. Anger is not a primary emotion, okay? I want you to think about it that way, and you're like, what the heck is a primary emotion? The primary emotion is the emotion that drives me and my motive, right? So anger is not really tied to that. It's tied as an extension of that. So what's the primary emotion? Well, that's what you got to figure out with each situation that you have causing resentment or anger, okay? So if I have resentment or anger going on, it's covering up. It's a defense mechanism for something else inside of my life. So if I'm angry, it's because I'm hurt. It's because I'm scared. It's because I'm fearful. It's because I'm guilty. It's shameful, whatever it is. But that is the emotion that you have to get to and learn how to deal with, right? So anger is the go away from me so I don't have to deal with you. Remember, it's an inside job, this recovery thing. We'll say that a lot. Recovery is an inside job, mental, emotional, and spiritual, right? So the inside is the way I think and feel. So I have to learn how to cope with how I think or feel. So if my defense mechanism is anger, then what's underneath that is some sort of pain, and why I feel that pain is what I need to get to. Why do I feel that pain, and what can I do instead? How do I process that pain? What do I need to do? Maybe I need to talk it out with somebody. Maybe I need to talk to that person. Before I talk to that person, I probably need to talk it out with somebody and see if that's the right choice. Because remember, it's an emotional situation. I don't want to just react off of emotion. I want to respond off of logical thought. So I have to maybe talk to somebody about that. So maybe that's not the thing to do. I know that when I started trying to get my life together, one of the things I didn't need to do was go talk to these people, because it didn't really matter anyway. I had to process it within my own life. Okay, so that's another thing I want you to think about. What are the resentments that you have? Where does this anger come from? What are these high-risk situations? And the answer is yes, they are. So what could cause this anger to come in? And I'm going to give you a little touchdown on what we're going to talk about moving forward, and one of them is boundaries, okay? So once we identify these high-risk situations, these are people, places, things. You've heard that over and over again. Well, I'm a big advocate of just talking about people. If I change the people I hang around with, I'll go different places and I'll do different things. So let's talk about that for a second. So when we learn to set boundaries with these old people or these situations that are difficult for us, one of the other things I need to do is I also need to figure out who are the people I do need to go around, okay? People at church, people at recovery meetings, people that are just doing great in their life. And for the most part, they need to not be using any chemicals, because early on that's going to be a real difficult situation for me. That's going to be a trigger, right? So I don't need to go around those situations that are going to cause a physiological response in me, and dopamine and serotonin to light up and go, I need to do that, because it really does go on. So you got to go around these new people. So let's talk about one of the things that real fast. So going around new people, that could be anxiety in itself. Remember, the alcohol and drugs was not my problem, it was my solution. Problem was me and my mental and emotional response to the situations around me. Well, if that's the case, then going into a new situation and meeting new people, that could cause anxiety, fear, all sorts of uncertainty within me. Well, remember, my old coping skill for that was alcohol and drugs. Well, now I can't do that. Okay, so I'm opening myself up to a situation that I have to trust the people around me. So I have to identify healthy situations to go into, and then go into them, and then jump in, because those are the people I need to be around, because that's going to be anxiety driven in itself, and I'm going to have to learn how to talk to them, how to share with them, how to be myself. And to be honest with you, for the most part, many of us, if we engulfed our life in alcohol and drugs, pot, alcohol, pills, cocaine, methamphetamine, whatever it may be, it becomes a lifestyle. Okay, and what happens is that becomes the identity of who we are, right? This is what we do these things, we hang out with these people, I sell this, I do that, whatever it is, that becomes my identity. Well, now I've lost my old identity, and now I have to find a new one, and these new people are hopefully going to help me identify what that is. And I need to get around people that are going to be willing to talk to me and call me on my stuff, right? Because if I can't get around people that'll call me on my stuff, that won't help me find who I am. One of the fears that not only I had, but I know many people and many friends that I have in recovery, is that they got to a place where they felt like they lost their identity and they didn't know who they were early in recovery. Well, welcome to recovery, because this is where you get to put your big boy pants on and big girl pants on, and you get to find out who you are. And every day, who you are is going to be driven by the actions that are you, okay? Where your value system is. We're going to get into that at a later date too. Okay, so that's really the first quick rundown of what we're going to do. Okay, there's some assignments there I want you to go through, I want you to find, I want you to write out, and I want you to go through with your counselor. Okay, so hopefully this will be helpful, and if you have any questions, be sure and get with your counselor on it, or call Hughes Center if you're looking at this video, 409-622-9252, or email us at dshcounseling.com, dshcounseling@gmail.com. So thank y'all so much for watching us today. Hopefully it was helpful in some